don't think you realize what kind of trouble you were in last night.
What's that like to live deliciously?
Who do you think those people were? If I told you their names, I don't think you'd sleep so well.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Cult Podcast. I'm your host, Cody Maloof. With me, as always, my co-host, Dante Troina. And we decided this week that we want to talk about one of our favorite cinematographers working right now. Dante, set us up a little bit for this.
Yeah, you just texted me about, hey, do you want to talk about Greig Fraser? And I was, yeah, how do we want to talk about him? So we just kind of putted back and forth some different ideas, talked about maybe a tier list, a ranking, but I think we just want to talk about him. We don't want to hold these movies against each other. We just want to talk about his career, the great shots he's provided us, and maybe even kind of what's next or the expectations for Greig Fraser moving forward, the bar that he has set, which I think we both delve back into in some of our favorite films, is just insane. And we just want to yap about it a bit.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect time to talk about him because Project Hail Mary came out a couple weeks ago. Huge smash hit. He shot that movie. He's got a ton of stuff coming out in the next year. And I think Greig Fraser is finally fully starting to get his respect as one of our greatest working cinematographers and honestly just greatest artists in film right now. He's really kind of gotten a big boost over the past 5 or 6 years. Especially with Dune Part 1 and the Batman, and that really kind of helped him level up. But he's been doing great work for over a decade at this point. So I think we both love a lot of the movies that he's worked on over the years. I don't think there's a movie of his that we've seen that we haven't enjoyed to some degree. But again, we want to talk more about his work on these movies than maybe these movies as a whole. Not the subject matter so much, more of his work on them, cinematography, lighting, color, that sort of thing. So I think we should just go. You want to start at the bottom, start from his early work and work up, Dante?
Sure.
What do you want to talk about first here? Because I know, I mean, he first really comes on my radar with Let Me In 2010. First time he worked with Matt Reeves. Not a really widely seen movie, a movie I myself haven't even seen.
Okay.
Where should we start here? I know you've seen it, Dante. So you want to talk a little bit about that, or?
No, so I really enjoy it. It's definitely early Greig Fraser is him finding his language. I think what he found in this film was the use of top-down lighting and the use of orange or brown type lighting in his films. Just from the opening sequence, there's a very distinct character through the color, which we'll talk about more as we get into later films that we've both seen. But I think that's something that he found and Let Me In and captured the dark vibe of that film very well with orange lighting, using true blacks, just classic stuff that is Greig Fraser's language now. I think that's what he discovered and Let Me In.
Yeah, the first movie on his list in his filmography that I've seen is Zero Dark 30. I still need to watch Killing Them Softly. I'm a big fan of everything I've seen from Andrew Dominic so far. Brad Pitt, crime movie, totally right at my alley. I haven't gotten to it yet. Have you seen that, Dante?
No, but I own it.
Oh, nice.
So I was wanting to watch it for this video, but no excuse. I know I've seen some shots from that film. Really excited to get into it. Brad Pitt looks sick in it, and a lot of stuff about dirtying up the frame, which we'll talk about again more.
We'll get to
that. I think that's what he learned it from is Killing Them Softly and making a gritty, in your face, nasty crime thriller.
Yeah, I think what I really love about a lot of his work is how lived in every frame feels and how every frame feels like it has so much texture, like you can reach out and touch it. Unlike you said, dirtying up the frame. I think Greig Fraser is one of the all-time best at that, whether it's rain or something else hitting the lens or just all sorts of different things in the foreground and background, light pouring in from different sources to just really make every single frame of his feel lived in. And Fraser was a photographer for a long time before he transitioned into cinematography. I saw an interview he did where he essentially said that he didn't really realize that you could do this in film, and then when he started to get more interested, he started watching a lot of movies to kind of familiarize himself with the language of cinema. And obviously that worked out really well for him because he's just been an absolute heater for a long time. I think it really starts with Zero Dark 30 for me. Killing Them Softly, we can't really talk about it because I haven't seen it yet. But Zero Dark 30, it looks amazing. And again, it's a movie that I enjoy quite a bit too. But there are just certain moments in this movie that really stand out to me. Particularly there's one scene where Fraser talks about where we walk into the characters walk into this like holding area that they have a prisoner in, and you start in complete
All
darkness,
right.
and the door opens and the room is flooded with light, and so the exposure changes, and then we go back to darkness and we see like the character in the foreground silhouetted against this like super blinding white light. There's also a lot of night vision scenes in this movie, like super intense raid scenes. He just really proved himself in this movie that he can do big budget action stuff. Um, and I think it's really carried him a long way since then. Any thoughts on Zero Dark 30?
Well, I think it kind of reset the visual language for the War on Terror and made it more dark and serious than it already was taken. I guess this is one of the first big movies about the War on Terror, but um, it is interesting to see a lot of the night vision sequences don't look too like video gamey. You know, I think that's something a lot of people do struggle with when they do night vision sequences or overhead surveillance sequences. And he frames them in a cinematic lens that makes them digestible, get their point across, and service a story. A lot of the visual language, I think, inspired one of our other favorite war films or modern war films, which is Sicario. A
That's
lot
what
of
I
that
think a
night
lot about
vision,
that.
true blacks, darks, and you've noticed Deakins is someone that we'll bring up in this. I think he really inspired Greg Fraser, and then Deakins has said he's been inspired by Greg Fraser's cinematography in other films. So kind of fun. I know Zero Dark 30 isn't one that he mentioned by name, but I definitely think that's a film that Deakins even looked at when he was making Sicario.
Yeah, definitely a lot of similarities with Sicario, especially with the night vision stuff. And yeah, Roger Deakins also, I mean, goes without saying, he's one of the all-time greats. So it only makes sense that Fraser was inspired by him and the way he likes to shoot things. There's definitely some overlap going on there, and it is fun to think that it's overlapping both ways at this point because
Yeah.
Fraser has shot a lot of movies that a lot of people have seen. So it makes sense that even someone like Deakins can see the Batman or Dune and think like, wow, like there's another step I can take, or like how did he do this? And it's just amazing. And I'm sure like anyone trying to make films right now, especially anyone like really interested in the visual language of film, Fraser is like a modern master, and he's someone that we have to study if you want to like truly understand how to do this, especially at scale. He's one of the best out right now at working with scale. And we'll
Yeah.
get more into that as we go a little bit deeper
Yes.
into
Yeah.
the filmography here. Foxcatcher, haven't seen it, heard it's good. Haven't seen Foxcatcher yet, but that's definitely on my list too.
Yeah,
Let's
that's the best thing about that movie. Bennett
the
Miller's directing again,
cinematography.
director of Moneyball, but the
Hmm.
cinematography is excellent, dark, moody, and I think lighting interiors more than his other films so far. Lighting a lot of interiors, making the most of dull scenes, using lighting. That's what I kind of remember from Foxcatcher. It's been a while since I've seen it, but the visual language is by far the best thing about that film.
What about The Gambler? Any thoughts on The Gambler here with Mark Wahlberg?
No big thoughts on The Gambler.
No.
Been a long time since I've seen that one. I
Okay.
did not
Okay.
know Greg Fraser did this until I went through the other day.
Well, let's move on to Lion then. This is a movie we both just watched recently, to kind of prepare a little bit more for this podcast. Again, focusing mainly on the visual elements
Yes.
in this movie. It looks amazing. I mean, it's really hard to just say that over and over for all these movies, but
You're
they all
right.
obviously look awesome. I love what he does with shadow, with silhouettes, especially like the first half of the movie.
Yeah.
Um, he's talked about this in interviews too, where the camera for a lot of the first half of the movie, because we're following the like young boy version of our main character, Saru, the camera is on his level for a lot of the movie. Like we're not
Yeah.
shooting him from an adult's perspective. The camera is kind of on that same level of like a 3 foot, 4 foot tall little boy. And it really makes you feel the way that he feels when he's lost in the first half of the movie. It just makes you kind of feel small, maybe overlooked. And then what he does with all these like surreal dream sequences, how he shoots or not dream sequences, but like daydreamish sort of sequences
Yeah.
where our main characters like seeing flashbacks or imagining his older brother. It all just looks amazing. I mean, there's a couple shots in particular. One where Saru as a boy is like running. It's a wide shot, and he's running across this like kind of open desert landscape sort of terrain. Another one where he's running towards the camera into a tunnel, and he's like backlit and he's silhouetted against
Yeah.
that light. Um, there's one where he's also standing with his back to the camera, and there's like a bunch of butterflies flying around in the background of the frame that he's kind of
Right.
looking at. Also, Fraser's so good at like dropping these elements into shots that maybe otherwise would look good by themselves, but when you put that one extra element in, it just like totally makes the frame come alive. What do you think here?
One, you brought up the shot where he's running away and he's backlit, and there's two different types of lightings going on there, two different colors of lighting going on there too. And just using colors that contrast and making them, just simple fundamentals. I know it's something that we'll talk again more about, but he just does the little stuff so right that makes your whole frame pop and makes your whole frame feel gritty and tangible. I think it's a good use of actual lighting instead of just putting a filter on the movie. So many movies that are set in India, Mexico, just warm countries in
We get the
general. Just
Breaking
put this,
Bad filter, you mean?
yeah, you this yellow or like
Uh-huh.
orangey filter on everything. No, like actually use the lighting. And I think this is one of the few movies that does lighting well in a foreign country. Like it's up there with like Parasite for me. And the scenes in the early part of Parasite is what it kind of reminded me of is all that first 40 minutes of young Saru wandering around being lost. I like that the camera is much more active when Saru is on the run,
We get some
and then
handheld
just
shots that get mixed in there. Yeah.
yeah, and just kind of a different bag for Fraser. I mean, even going forward, I don't think he's ever quite been in what he's doing in the first 40 minutes of Lion, and I really enjoyed that. It's kind of a bummer that the second half of the movie does not have that same lost or kinetic energy for him to draw off of, because I think he does really well with interiors, really well with really simple scenes, but he's given really simple scenes. Whereas the first 40 minutes, there's a lot of stuff that he can play with outside, moving around, dream sequences, visions, that kind of stuff that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, it's certainly the exteriors in this movie that really grip you visually. I mean, even in the latter half of the movie, when our main character Saru was
Yeah.
grown up, there's that sequence where Dev Patel. There's a couple different scenes where Dev Patel is on a beach, on a couple different beaches. Those are all like incredibly stunning,
Yes.
especially where he's like back to the camera, lighting and like sun going down in front of him, silhouetted, standing in the ocean. Or there's these scenes where he's like swimming in the water and then like walking up the beach in a wide shot. Fraser is like
Yeah.
one of the kings of exteriors, and he definitely excels in interiors as well, like stuff like Zero Dark 30 we mentioned earlier. But when I think of him, I tend to think of a lot of his exterior shots, whether it's the beaches in Dune or a lot of like the Vietnam War inspired stuff that we get in the creator. We'll get to all that stuff later, but that's really what I think of before anything else when I think of Fraser's work is his absolute mastery of all different kinds of exteriors.
Yeah. Um, every single wide shot with Saru is just perfect. Every shot where it's panning out on him. I think the whole first half of this movie could be a silent film. And
Yeah.
I know it's in a foreign language, so that leads to a little bit of detachment on our part. It's subtitled, but it's one of those movies where it looks so good that you just want to turn the subtitles off, even though it is in a language you don't understand. And you almost can watch it like that because it is just such good visual storytelling and captures that feeling that Saru has of just being completely lost. Um, yeah, really incredible work. I think this would be one of my first choices for, if any cinematographer could make or be the director of photography for a silent film, Fraser proves that he could be right there with Lion.
The same year as Lion, we also got Rogue One, which
Yeah.
is an absolute fucking banger in all regards. This is the best looking Star Wars movie I think we've ever seen, and
Yep.
obviously it makes sense that Fraser shot this. I saw this movie in 2016. I wasn't really paying attention to a lot of the below the line crew members of these films. I mean, I knew who
Yeah.
was kind of just starting to really get into filmmakers and like breaking down their styles and what they do different on all their different projects. Um, but looking back on this, like obviously Greg Fraser shot this movie with Gareth Edwards, someone who he ended up working again with later on the creator. Because this is just like such a banger, and he takes everything that's great about Star Wars and uses it to his full advantage, whether it's the colors, I mean the greens, the blacks, the reds in this movie. Again, the exteriors, the massive scale of the Death Star later in the film. Um, Even like the pure white of the stormtroopers or Krennic's
Yeah.
or like jacket or coat or whatever that he's wearing, his uniform. Um, this movie is like just so fun to look at, and he did an amazing job here.
Yeah. And it's one thing I think you brought it up, like just the costume design complements his cinematography so well. Krennic's, it's just iconic, even from the opening scene I think it's so much fun to put him with, like, interesting looking actors like Ben Mendelsohn or Mads Mikkelsen because he can just bring out their little facial features and ticks all the better. So much good framing in this film, so much, uh, use of just simple, visual rules with framing that show who has power in each scene. Each character feels like they have a different presence in how they're shot here, which is so much fun. Uh, Here downwards in what we're gonna be talking about with Fraser, are movies that we've watched multiple times too. So I do want to get more
Yeah.
into the nitty gritty of this because cinematography is something that brings you back into a film. And Rogue One, despite liking it as a Star Wars film, I'm maybe not as high on it as you are, like story wise.
I'm about
But
as high as you could get.
I'll I'll jump right back into it for cinematography any day though, because this thing from the jump looks so good. Fraser talked about it was the first film that was shot entirely on an Arri Alexa 65, which was a new camera at the time. He liked it because it was super versatile and could just get better angles. Basically, is a lot of what he was talking about with it, and you could use different lenses with it.
Mhm.
So the camera was made the year before, uh, but he can install like lens from the 70s, like Panavision lens on it, and it allowed him to be kind of a tinkerer and a photographer. And this is where I think he really discovered like, oh, I can get kind of crazy with a lot of this shit. And I think it did allow him, Rogue One did. I know there's not like a quote to support this, but I feel like he is letting loose a little bit. Like he is starting to get loose with it, start flexing what he can really do. And something of this big a scale, I think it did push him to go all out. And you can see that. Um, throughout the whole thing. The scale, like you said, insane. He almost makes Grand Moff Tarkin look good despite like the horrible CGI.
Sure.
That shot of him with the Death Star behind him through the window is just incredible use of scale, and it's just I don't even care that the CGI sucks because the shot is so good.
Yeah, I think it really is the hallmark of every great or at least noteworthy cinematographer, people that like you and I would really like gravitate towards is their ability to endear themselves to great filmmakers, to filmmakers who really understand how they work, people that they work
Right.
really well with. Gareth Edwards, obviously one of those people. As far as like someone who really understands, I think, how to work with Greg
Oh yeah.
Fraser. I think they have a great working relationship. Edwards, you talk about scale. Edwards obviously understands scale very well, whether it's with his Godzilla film, with Rogue One, even The Creator, another film that certainly takes advantage of a large scale environment. Fraser just loves, I think, working at that heightened like atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's super apparent in Rogue One. I really like that he is tinkering on a fucking Star Wars movie. Like it's
Right.
really cool. Like he's
Right.
at this point. I mean, he's only shot a handful of big budget films at this point, but I think he's confident enough in his abilities and his relationship with the filmmaker that he feels comfortable like putting a Panavision lens on a brand new Arri Alexa 65 camera that just came out, something that he used in
Right.
multiple other films that we'll get into later. It's just really awesome, and yeah, Fraser, I love that he always likes to switch things up. One movie shot spherical, another movie shot anamorphic. Sometimes he's like
Yeah.
switching between multiple different lenses for different shots. In a, even in like scene to scene in one movie. He is definitely a tinkerer. I think that's a really good way to describe it. And I think
Yeah.
any good visual artist has to be, because you can't get complacent and kind of just wash, rinse, repeat, do the same thing over and over. If there's one thing that can be said about Greg Fraser, it's that he rarely does the same thing twice. I mean, even when you go from
Yeah.
Dune 1 to Dune 2, um, those movies, they look very similar, but he's obviously trying a bunch of more stuff in Dune 2 that he maybe thought about in Dune 1.
Right.
And he's just always kind of on the cutting edge,
He's
I
always
think.
pushing the art forward. Yeah, he's never playing it safe. I think one thing that was really interesting is he talks about some of these franchise films, and he talks about trying to stay away from source material or stay away from like other Star Wars films because he wants to do something unique with it. He doesn't want to feel inspired by another. And part of it is like, yeah, of course he watched Star Wars before, or of course he's like
Uh,
read a Batman comic or watched a Batman movie or something. But I think it is interesting that he says, like, I don't want to watch something and be inspired by it. I want to see the script or see a set and figure out what I can do with it. And that's ballsy. And I think that goes to again, the tinkering notion with the camera and then even tinkering with the sets and tinkering with the story and just knowing that you can be comfortable in any place that you're operating in. is really fun. And talking about, like you said, using different lens, different styles for different films. He says it's like it's his, position to make the visual language of the film and to fit that, not make it, sorry, but fit what the film is demanding of him. And dude, whatever works for you as an artist, it's obviously working, but
Yeah.
it's kind of cool to hear him say those kind of things.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, you can't help but like you said, every single person alive has seen Star Wars, and I'm sure Fraser is someone who seems to be very comfortable and have an affinity for science fiction films in particular. Obviously, I can only imagine he grew up a Star Wars fan on some level. I haven't heard him really talk about that, but I can infer I think he probably was at least on some level. So
right.
I wonder what it's like to grow up with Star Wars in your life and then shoot the best looking Star Wars movie. And honestly, in my opinion, one of the very best Star Wars movies just as a whole.
Yeah.
Gotta be just like an awesome feeling. And the colors, I mean, that go into Rogue One, Dante, like I said, the greens, the blacks, the reds. I mean, the shot that I really always think about.
Different planets. Every planet has a
Yes.
characteristics. And what shot? Sorry.
So the shot I always think about is, and I've heard Fraser talk about this, is the shot of Darth Vader at the end with
Yep.
the lightsaber igniting, and he talks about how are we going to do this because he's backlit, even though the light's coming from in front of him, and the smoke we had billowing in, and how we had him like framed in the hallway, and he talked about that scene or that shot being one of his favorite from the film Rogue One. Is just like really getting to work with Darth Vader and giving Darth Vader frankly the most badass scene he has ever
Right.
had in any medium. I mean, that's no small feat.
Yeah. It's really cool to see that fresh coat of paint over our pre-lived in original trilogy universe,
Yeah,
because everything from those old movies does look worn down. And while the Star Wars movies are way ahead of their time, it's nice to see like that little extra layer of gloss on Vader's helmet, right? I like how all the Empire, they all look so much cleaner than everything else in the movie. Like all the rebels look just dirty and
right.
nasty, and brown tones inform them. Um, you go from Mustafar and Vader's little demon castle on Mustafar, which looks amazing and looks like something ripped right out of the Darth Vader comics, to Scarif, which
Yeah,
is like beach paradise, but also still has to fit that language of something that the Empire is going through. And then you have different planets. I don't know the names of them, but the one in the beginning that Ben Mendelsohn finds, director Krennic finds, Mads Mikkelsen's character on, is just fucking amazing and lush and balances grays with green so well. And also the planet where we get back to Mads Mikkelsen's character,
yeah, where it's
um,
raining the whole
where
time,
it's
and they,
raining and it's kind of purple lit. Like, oh my gosh. So just so many different places that it takes you to in the film that all have their own distinct identity, but all fit that larger picture of Rogue One as a movie. And I think that's what makes it rewatchable and so much fun, is that he brings the most out of every location in this film.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's fun to work on a film like Rogue One that has all of these different exotic locations, like
Yeah.
locations that are really different from each other. Because as a visual artist, it gives you so much room to play. And you go from one scene to the next, you're in two completely different environments, or multiple different, from there's like 5 or 6 different planets in this movie, I think that they
Right.
go to. So yeah, it's just really awesome to see the way he adapts to a different environment, and like nothing really seems to phase him at this point when we get further into his career, especially like stuff like Dune, where you're like, it's desert, it's Lawrence of Arabia, it's orange, it's dark browns and blacks. It's
Right.
just really really cool to see the way he's really able to like morph around whatever setting a filmmaker puts him in, and it really like doesn't miss a beat at all.
I want to get into the Mandalorian if you're done
That's
with
like
Rogue
this is a
One.
good time to talk about
I think
Mandalore.
this is a good time to transition right into it. He takes kind of like a, not years off, but does some different stuff. Does Vice, Mary Magdalene. I've seen screenshots from Mary Magdalene. It looks beautiful. Vice is a good looking movie, but I think he was really building up to the Mandalorian. And in season one, he only shot 3 episodes. But holy fuck, man!
But he
Like
set
this
the
is take
template for how that show was going
he
to look.
he set the template for this and Andor,
And
I'd
pretty
say
much
as
all of
well.
Star
Like
Wars that
this,
followed, and a
that
lot of
whole
other movies
era.
too. But
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Um, a lot of his work was done on the volume at this time. Uh, is he the only person in the world that knows how to use the volume?
Well,
Because
he
when he
almost like didn't invent it, but pioneered it. I don't think he
right,
literally invented the technology, but I think he was very hands-on in the crafting of the technology and using it for that specific purpose. The Mandalorian was the first project it was ever used on, as far as I know, or like to
yeah,
like that large of a scale. Um, And yeah, I mean,
Well,
he
and it
really
was
makes it look amazing.
at the time, it was the coolest thing too. And you see, like, you can go back on YouTube and watch like the old Vox videos
Uh-huh.
on the, it's gonna change cinema. And
It
it
did,
just
not for
it
the
did.
better mostly.
And then a lot of people are using it wrong and then start to blame it for its shortcomings. And then Greg Fraser comes back and uses it in something else, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
It's like, this dude just knows how to use it. And it's again, like, it feels like Fincher with digital cameras, like people who just know how to use lighting really well. And they're like, oh, I just do it correctly.
Well, Fincher's
And
someone who
there's
Fraser
no
is definitely
arrogance to it.
taking
Yeah.
inspiration from in a lot of his films, especially with the Batman.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you're right. It's like there are no shortcuts. I don't think Fraser takes any
Right.
shortcuts with anything he ever does. And the Mandalorian, and working with the volume, he doesn't see the volume as something that's going to make his life way easier. He sees it as like, how can I use this tool to compose the best looking frame I possibly can?
Right.
And I think a lot of people since then have taken the wrong message. Even like people, even the later seasons of this show have used the
Right.
volume to a much lesser effect than season one, Greg Fraser using it. It's almost become like a cop out or something that people think can be a cheat code or a shortcut to making stuff look good without having to build a set or go to location,
Right.
but just put it up on the volume. But that really kind of misses the whole point of what the volume was supposed to be and what Fraser used it for, which was again using it to enhance the world around you and not
Yeah.
using it as a crutch, but using it as a tool and knowing when and when not to use it and just how to use it effectively more than anything.
That opening ice planet in episode 1 or chapter 1 of Mandalorian is one of the best things ever in Star Wars. Just that whole little 5-minute sequence, and the scene itself is great, but how cold it feels, him walking out of his own ship, and I think it's the Razor Crest at that time, or it might be a little bit before that. It's been a while since I watched The Mandalorian actually because of where the show's
It,
gone and where the visual
yeah.
language is dipped. But they just set the bar so high. Like, this kicked off all of Disney Plus too,
Mm-hmm.
and made us all, I just bitched about Disney Plus for 20 minutes in our Daredevil episode. Uh, this kicked off Disney Plus, and what was better than
I
this
don't know if we've ever
when
gotten back to this
no,
initial high like
no,
ever again
no,
with Disney Plus.
no, just these first 10 episodes of The Mandalorian, 10 chapters are incredible. And again, it's all informed by Fraser's visual language, attention to detail. The volume is used so well again for planet hopping and showing different environments. You go from starting this episode in the cold, you feel cold when you watch that instance. You're so soaked into what the show is trying to tell you already. And then you have the iconic shot of him and at the time Baby Yoda, not Grogu, at the time at the end of the first episode, where he's reaching out to the little pod with Baby Yoda at the time, and again, just an iconic shot. Um, and
Yeah.
John Favreau behind it too, just like
I miss this version of The
the start of
Mandalorian.
Marvel.
And it's really weird that John Favreau has continued to shepherd this show along with Dave
Yeah,
Filoni. And the show has just progressively gotten worse, both visually, tonally, just plot wise. I mean, it really just has gotten worse in every aspect, especially after the third season is really where a lot of my problems lie with this show. And visually, chief among them. I mean, it really just doesn't look like it used to. I'm throwing
no,
everything else aside as far as like the actual story beats and characters and whatnot, but it's just it's weird to me that I don't know if it's Favreau trying to cut corners or studio pressure or budget cuts or what have you, but it's really kind of weird to me that as the show has gone along, it's looked a lot worse in its most
yeah,
recent iteration when we started off on such a high point and we have a lot of the same creatives in place. It's just Frazier
right,
is so in demand now that he can't continue to devote all of this time to a
right.
show
He's
like
not
The
doing the
Mandalorian.
Mandalorian.
He's
Yeah,
got way bigger fish to fry at this point, but it just sucks that what he started hasn't necessarily been followed, I think, as closely as it should have.
well, and like, so what is it? A month now until Mandalorian and Grogu comes out.
Yes.
There is no way that that film is going to look even close to the first episode of this show. Uh, if you watch episode 1, 3, and 7 again, which Fraser filmed, it will not even be close. And I'm not like rooting for that, but you just know it because he set the bar again, like at a height that they just don't seem to know exists anymore.
And even the episodes in season one where Fraser didn't work on them, they still
Right.
feel
They're
very
informed
much
by
in.
him.
They're still very much informed by, I think, the like you said, the bar, the template that Fraser set. I think everybody kind of got on board with that to make something that was greater than the sum of its parts, greater than a lot of. It didn't feel like there's a lot of different hands working on this show as far as like the cinematography
Right.
goes. Even though TV shows obviously employ a lot more people, generally speaking, on the crew than a lot of films do. Like just people like episode to
Yeah.
episode. But it doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel like there's too many cooks in the kitchen here. It feels like Frasier came in and showed everybody what we should be striving towards, and everybody kind of jumped on that train. But at a certain point, people like jumped on a completely different train and kind of just forgot or just thought it was easier. We know what we're doing now. And it's just kind of sad to see. But yeah, I mean, it's some of the best TV I've ever seen. As far
Yeah.
as just like best looking, best lit, best like you want to talk about texture and dirtying up the frame. The Mandalorian is another great example of this, and it really has not carried over. But it's hard to. It's really weird to think about it now, like going back to a Star Wars TV show saying that it did look as good as it
Right.
does, but it really did, and it still does. I mean, it really holds up if you go back and look at it.
Right. And one thing that again they just forget, except for Andor. I think Andor has been inspired by this first season of
Sure.
Mandalorian and somehow been able to keep it. But just a world that looks lived in and not just a background for our characters to walk through on different
Hmm.
planets. Like it really is a world that is lived in and takes its time with the cuts and lets you soak into like again, I keep coming back to that scene, but you feel the cold through the screen because it takes its time with him walking out of his ship into that little isolated bar on the planet. And part of that is like letting DPs having faith in them and not cutting away from their beautiful shots, like letting us soak into the sound design and visual production that's going on there. And it's just simple stuff like that that is totally missing from today's streamers.
Yeah, I mean, TV. I don't think we'll ever see Frasier return to TV. At least, I personally hope not.
No.
I mean, I would love to see him continue in feature filmmaking. Um, the last thing I really have to say about Star Wars is like kind of like you just touched on. One of the great things about Star Wars is the diversity in characters, planets, settings. I mean, as an artist, there's just so many different so much different room to play with. So many different areas you can visit. And Frasier does, like you said, does not treat it like a background or just like something that people aren't really going to pay attention to. The detail is astounding, and it's down to like every scratch on the Mandalorian's armor. I know that's more
Right.
production design, but Fraser highlights it, and
But
he
he
really
captures it. Yeah.
understands, yeah, how to like convey that to you visually to help you just get that much more into the world. That's what we really love about Star Wars. Some Star Wars doesn't really do that these days, and that kind of I think misses the point about what we like so much about that world.
Yeah.
Fraser fully understands that, whether it's Rogue One or his work on The Mandalorian, he fully understands how to immerse you into the world of Star Wars, how immersive that
Yep.
world should feel. And he like is I think maybe the best at capturing it that maybe we've ever seen.
Yeah. I think a lot of what he does is he can show you something without having a cut to what he's trying to show you. Like he knows a good angle to play where you can see a scratch on the armor without zooming into the armor and
Mm-hmm.
doing like a 1 second, like, oh my gosh, his armor has chinks in it. And we'll talk more about that in the Batman. But he does a lot of visual language without moving the camera or without zooming into something that he's trying to show you. He commands the frame really well. Another film, I think everything here though, but another film that's really immersive is Dune.
Yes.
He talked a lot about having to forget the first Star Wars or the Star Wars stuff they did to shoot the first Dune. Again, talking about how he didn't want to be influenced by his own other work on different alien planets. Um, I think this is his. I don't know. I think the next three things we're going to talk about, I'm going to say, I think this is his best work, but I think this is where we really start to get into some all timer shit in Dune.
Yeah, I want to just group Dune 1 and 2 together, like just talk about
Okay.
them as a whole here. Because obviously two parts of one story. But starting with Dune Part 1, I mean, from the first shot of this movie, it's just like you just realize that it's on another fucking level. And like I said about endearing yourself to great filmmakers, this might have been the all-time like person for Fraser to work with is Denis
Right.
Villeneuve, because someone who works almost exclusively at the most grand, epic, large scale possible in someone like Denis Villeneuve, needs someone like Greg Fraser, I think, to really help Dune have the most impact that it possibly could have. And all of the Denis Villeneuve films look amazing. He's worked with a handful of different
Yeah.
DPs over the course of his career. But I think the best stuff that Villeneuve has done is with Fraser, at least visually speaking.
Well, and Villeneuve has been on record saying like he'd rather show you something than tell it to you. He just has no interest in his own words in writing dialogue. Greg Fraser is the perfect person for that, and I think for reasons we just talked about, showing you everything in the frame without having to really show you. It's up to you how much you want to get involved in the film. From the first couple shots and like the dream sequence with Chani, like how can you not get immersed
I
in
know.
Dune? Um,
Well, he goes
I think one,
anamorphic immediately, or it's I
yeah,
guess it's more spherical, I guess, in Dune, but you still get some lens
yes,
flares in the
yeah.
beginning. And yeah, that just like immediately locks you in, and yeah, we kind of just are off and running from that moment on.
Um, I think the one thing that he kind of talks about in this film is, we talk a lot about backlighting, and backlighting is the most common, I think, use of lighting in film in general. He used a lot of top lighting here to complement the performances and make the performers' mouths darker when they're talking, especially in the early acts of the film, because he doesn't want you to trust everything they're saying. He talked a lot about the Bene Gesserit, um, the mistrust of what's going on with them. Paul's scene, if you watch his scene, encountering the Bene Gesserit for the first time, it is entirely top lit, and that helps create the shadows on the Bene Gesserit's barely seen faces. That helps Paul look kind of like dour as he's walking in there. His mouth is a whole different color from the top of his head, and I think that's just really interesting use of lighting. And again, a tinkerer, someone that's not afraid to do something different, someone that's takes a 3 to 4 minute scene and helps make it really memorable because he's willing to change one little thing about the lighting that does everything for the scene and for the visual language of the film.
Yeah, I mean, this is really too where I think Fraser fully realizes how much color he can inject into a film, like for maximum
Yeah.
effect. Rogue One is a colorful movie, but it's more blue and green and I guess black than anything else, with some whites and some grays mixed in there. Bit of red, but Dune
Yeah.
is like orange. It's just all Lawrence of
Right.
Arabia, like dark, different, all the different shades of orange, bright orange, dark orange, contrast with heavy blacks and like dark browns. This it just looks absolutely amazing. Like every single frame of this movie is a painting, and obviously a lot of that is in conjunction with Denis Villeneuve's direction as a filmmaker. Obviously, he
Yeah.
knows exactly what he wants to see. But the collaboration with Fraser is just has borne so much fruit at this point between Dune 1, Dune 2, and beyond. I mean, I know he's not, unfortunately, we'll get into it a little bit later, what he's working on next. He's not shooting Dune Part 3, which is a huge bummer because
Sucks.
these two movies look absolutely incredible. I mean, the shot that I really love from Dune Part 1, there are many, but the one that I really love, I guess there's a few. But the one is when Paul gets that hit of spice for the first time, and you have like the little
Yeah.
particles of spice floating around, and it's a really transformative moment for the character, and it's just captured absolutely perfectly. It looks awesome. I also really loved when there's like that silhouetted dark nighttime shot of the ornithopter, and it's kind of lit with these like
Yeah.
lights underneath it, I think. That looks amazing. All the stuff when the Harkonnens are attacking um
The use of
are
shadows.
attacking like the city. That looks awesome. The fire is burning in the distance. But just every single like moment of this movie is absolutely superb. I really can't knock it at all.
Yeah. I think one thing you talk about all the orange and those colors. I love just the first 20 to 30 minutes on Caladan.
True, yeah.
Leto Atreides and just the Atreides home planet. There's now what's an infamous shot, the IMAX shot that we all
Yeah,
see where
yeah.
it's the ship leaving Caladan, and it's like, oh my god, the fact that I can't see that
Uh-huh.
on my own. I wish Denis was better about putting his voice in there to translate that to what I see on my screen now. Because I think that's something Nolan has done really well about translating that format to your home screen. There's no attempt here with
Hmm.
Dune, and that makes me
That's
so
more of
mad
like
every time I. It's
That's
a
more of a
studio
rights thing.
choice.
It's
It's this
it's an
and that.
IMAX thing. It's
Yeah.
like working with the IMAX Corp, which owns
Oh, it's
those
such a
aspect
bummer.
ratios. It is complete insanity that we don't have Dune 1 or 2 IMAX aspect ratios available at home on any format.
Yeah.
I kind of think when part 3 comes out on 4K, they're going to do a triple like box set and then
I
give
hope
you those
so.
aspect ratios. I own part 1
Yeah,
and
I'd be
part
the
2 on
first one to buy
4K,
it.
but I would absolutely buy them again to get those
Yeah.
ratios.
Yeah.
This is the first movie that Fraser works with PLFs in premium large formats. He works with IMAX
Right.
the first time here, all shot digitally, but this is where he also pioneered his technique of
Yes.
shooting on digital, scanning, then printing that digital format or printing onto an actual physical reel of film, and then scanning the film back into digital again to edit. It like adds some of the texture of film grain without actually having to project the movie on film. And like, obviously digital is much easier now. It's kind of like the standard format that we use. But Fraser obviously loves film and he loves that texture that film gives you. And you can
Right.
really tell, like from these movies on, from Dune 1 and 2, The Batman, Project Hail Mary, he's done this technique on all those different movies. And it really does add another layer of a little bit of imperfection, the flickers that film gives you, and also just the true like lifelike colors. Digital sometimes
Right.
just looks way too crisp and real, and that's where this technique I think has really like shown like what it can do. And I've never really heard of anyone else doing it before.
Yeah, I wanna get more into this in the Batman when we get there, because I think that's where he really started. I think Dune, the first one, is where he pioneered this. I think the
Mm-hmm.
Batman is where he figured it out really, and then Dune Part 2 is where he mastered it. One thing I really like about the Dune movies is when the Atreides first get to Arrakis, in Dune, there's a lot more, like, white light and, like, really bright yellow type lights. The sun's a little bit, like, too glaring, a lot more lens
Because
flares
they're
are
not
used.
used to the desert at
They're
all.
not used to it, and then in from the start of the second movie, there's a lot more of that orange color palette, and a lot more scenes filmed at sunset, a lot of shadows off the sand dunes, and I think that's just fun creativity. I'm sure that was him and Denis just sitting there cooking something up, like, "We could change this with the lighting and da da." I would love to see those 2 just talk about how they're planning to shoot their film, because they just go over the most insane shit and make it possible.
Yeah, if you want to just move on over to Doom Part 2, I mean, the whole opening sequence where it's super dark
Yeah.
orange, and then you have that eclipse that happens like halfway through that sequence. Um, it's just visual filmmaking on a level that I think we rarely get to see, and we are so lucky that we are living in this time where we got to experience this stuff. I got to see this Doom Part 2 in 70 millimeter IMAX on a gigantic screen and just being absolutely blown away from the first sequence, from the first shot of this movie. That's probably like what I would pick for my favorite shot is that whole opening sequence with the
Yep,
super like dark orange hue.
yep.
You also have that scene where Paul is watching the nuclear explosion happen, and the explosion's happening in the away in the in the super background, and Paul's in the foreground. Um, there's so many though. I mean, it's so hard to pick individual shots from this movie because the movie as a whole is like a Kubrick film where every frame of painting, like
Yeah.
no inch of the frame is being neglected. I mean, everything's been thought about so precisely. It just it is just incredible to watch.
Yeah, I think everybody has a story about or like a moment with this film when you were first watching it where you're like, "Oh, this is speaking at a higher level." Like this is really I think Dune Part 1 is a good story that's told by really great storytellers and great actors. I think Dune Part 2 is a great story told by great storytellers and actors, and it lets them get to that second level in the sequel. Yeah, that whole opening scene, like the dark orange color palette with the Harkonnens is just makes you realize you're in for a treat from the jump. Way less again like lens flares on Arrakis. Um or sorry, way less lens flares on the first movie, but still everything looks like hot and out of focus in the background when they're on Arrakis. I like that little visual cues again, like everything with Chani is pretty handheld and shaky.
Mm-hmm.
She's out of control for a lot of this story, and a lot of what, even when they're tracking shots or like longer takes on Paul, the camera is moving very level or is still because he's in control. He's taking his destiny in this story. Um, he captures, I wrote in my notes, like he captures heat as well as he captured rain in the Batman. Like
Mhm.
heat is an actual element to this film, and levels up again. Um, the Getty Prime. Holy
Yeah.
smokes. That whole middle sequence, again, like tinkering, real sicko shit is what he's doing here, like shooting in infrared and black and white, where he's going into the camera, stripping out certain, I
Filters.
don't know how,
Yeah,
certain
the IR
filters like
filters and stuff. Yeah.
reflectors, all that stuff, IRFs, and making it so that it's infrared and black and white, anything that's inside on this planet. Real like I'm a madman shit.
Yeah, well, it's
Like
just like a stop what you think you know about this movie, like of this world,
right.
and just pay attention because we're gonna show you something that you've never seen in a movie where it's super dark, orange, bright oranges, even like some hints of blue in there to contrast. And then we just go black and white for what 10 minutes of this
Yeah,
movie.
yeah,
It's also black and white that we've not really seen before. It feels like a different version.
right,
It doesn't
because
feel
of the
like an old
infrared.
black and white movie. It feels like just stripping all the color out of it, but keeping all of the richness and the detail at the same time. It's really hard to do. I've watched a lot of black and white movies in my day, but I've never seen a black and white sequence like the one in Dune Part
Right,
2.
it feels so reversed.
I mean,
Yeah,
all of this movie is like sitting up in your chair and like locking the fuck in, but that specific sequence in particular is like you need to really like pay attention. If you're not fully locked in by that point, you will be when you get the whole Gady Prime sequence.
yeah.
Truly incredible stuff. I really don't know how else to describe him at this point. Greg Fraser, he's just one of like our top guys, and we haven't even gotten to maybe his best work yet, which is the Batman. What do you think? What
Well,
is the Batman his best work, Dante? Or do you
let
have
me
a little bit more on
can
Dune
I
too?
say I have a little bit more on Dune too, and
Okay, go
you
ahead.
know
Go
how
ahead.
hard it is for me to not get to the Batman right now, dude, but, um, Getty Prime produces one of my favorite shots in the film, which is when Leah Sedu's character is seducing Fade Rotha,
Mm,
and it's costume design, but it's a lot of how it's shot with the shadows. She is dressed like a chess piece.
mm.
She is making a play right now in chess. And I think that's always fun. Again, Denis talks about, visual storytelling, and them highlighting her as a chess piece moving down the hallway is incredible. Um, the whole final sequence, the final 15 minutes, that orange filter and like the sunset behind the very still camera fight scene
Hmm.
is amazing. Fraser talking about long focal lenses that make the sand dunes feel closer than they are to you throughout the sequences on Arrakis. Um, and also a lot of Arrakis talking about the where the lighting has to be to make sure that the continuity is the same on the sand. Little stuff that people just don't think about when they're making a film
And a lot of natural
that
light used
he
in this
thinks
movie,
about,
probably
right?
more than any of his other movies, right? Dune 1 and 2, shooting in the desert using a lot of natural
Yeah.
light. There's a lot of advantages that come with that, but also a lot of disadvantages because you can't put all the lights exactly where you want. Kind of have to work with what you have on the day. And it doesn't feel like he lost any momentum or lost any
No,
sort of beat
no.
having to shoot with a lot of natural light in the desert. I mean, he just takes it right in stride and makes it look amazing.
But to answer your question and to transition it into the Batman.
I do want to just shout out
Oh,
before we
oh,
go
go
to the
ahead. Go
Batman.
ahead.
I kind of forgot, but I think maybe the best shot in Dune Part 2 is the overhead
Go
bird's
ahead.
eye view shot of Paul moving through the
Oh, with the
crowd.
sand.
Like you've
Yeah.
seen that on Twitter like
Yeah.
a million times when right when that movie came out. Like that was like I think the main clip that everyone was reposting was that shot of him just kind of moving his way through that gigantic crowd. Just truly like showing you the scale of Paul's influence, like his messianic power almost. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like something you could put on a poster or put in a frame. A lot of this movie is stuff you could put in a frame. Like you would want to decorate your house with this kind of artwork. It's like just stuff
Yes.
that I never would not want to see. It's just stuff that like you'll never forget. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, and we haven't forgotten it. Like,
Right.
what's hard about these movies is that you rewatch them and you haven't forgotten a single frame because you'll still find a new detail in those frames, but you remember every single shot because the first impression is just unlike anything else. Um, and then a movie that again we'll get right into it, but one that I've dove back into hundreds of times. This is this was made for me.
Yes.
The Batman. Oh hell yes, dude. Like, come on. From the first like couple trailers to what we actually got on screen. This is just again, like I talked about sicko shit with Dune 2. What he's doing in the Batman is just insane. Like I don't know where to start. Maybe you should start so I can gather my thoughts on the Batman. My notes for this are literally half of my notes for this video. It's a lot of stuff on my end.
The main thing I have to say about the Batman, I think we talked about dirtying up the frame, and the Batman is the ultimate
Yeah.
example of that. We mentioned a little bit earlier, just how lived in and grimy and gross and gritty this world really feels. That's all thanks to Greig Fraser, obviously in conjunction with Matt Reeves and the production design team, and everyone has a hand in that, but maybe no one more so than Greig Fraser. I mean, he's designing this entire visual language. I love the color red, the use of the color red throughout this movie. Something we've never seen in a Batman movie before. All the
Right.
Batman movies are blue, are black. I mean, you get to the Joel Schumacher Batman movies, and it's just like
Every
a
color on
fucking
earth.
circus all over the
Yeah.
place. But like discounting that, this is intentionally done to evoke a really a fearful, scary almost world that we live in. Whether
Yeah.
it's the red that he uses when Batman lights the torch toward the end of the movie. Another awesome bird's eye view shot that almost is
Yeah.
kind of reminiscent of the Paul Atreides shot that we just mentioned. But I mean, I've never really thought like to use red in this way, and it's used so many times throughout the movie, and
And it's instantly iconic.
it is instantly
Instantly.
iconic.
Like
Absolutely,
again, Batman's colors in the comics, like you go black, gray, blue, a little bit of yellow,
a little
maybe
bit
some
yellow.
purple could go in there, but there is not like this feels like there's Batman and then there's Detective Comics, and this movie feels like Detective Comics and feels like Batman Year One, like a
It
Mazzucchelli
is a total comic book,
masterpiece.
like one
It's
to one translation of how a Batman comic book feels. Like when you read The Long Halloween, this is
right,
how you feel when you're reading that
right.
book. And it's like perfectly put on
Right,
the
all the stuff
screen.
in the mayor's office just from the jump again. And again, talking about, uh, doing a lot with a shot without actually, like, zooming in and showing you. There's that opening shot with the Riddler where the TV is reflecting off of his eyes to make him look like he's a demon possessed on a mission to kill this mayor,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't zoom in or, like, crash cut to his eyes. You barely even see him, like, it's just you have to, like, "Wait a minute, oh, shit." And it's why I wish like, I know he did Let Me In, but I think Fraser would work great on another, like, true horror movie, because he knows how to use shadows and lighting so well, and I know he just had a great time filming this, like, there's no way he didn't, but just playing with us from the first shot like that is crazy, and having enough confidence to just put that on the screen and let the audience, process it and make it its own iconic shot now, but not to cut to it and show you, hey, look at what we're doing. Isn't this so cool? Because when you pull off something like that in the first 5 minutes, you want to jump the gun and show us. Dirtying up the frame. So he purchased his own RE anamorphic lenses and purposefully detuned them and customized them. So making them so that the focus would be more on the center of the frame. So again, sicko shit. He bought his own lenses, customized them, and made them look worse on the outside of the frame to make the dirtying up the shot to make the world feel more lived in. That is just insane that he would even approach to like break lenses and film movies on a purposely detuned lens. He rubbed Vaseline on the lenses, on the edge of the lenses as well, to dirty up the frame before the set is even made. Right, just doing the little stuff without, um, changing the set, doing all
Mm-hmm.
this stuff, doing it through the lens without a filter is just crazy that he would actually do that. And it made rain stick onto the lenses as well. So you get like the chase sequence, or you get some of the opening sequences
Mm-hmm.
out in the rain, and the rain doesn't run down the lens; it just kind of sticks to it. So you don't even notice it until you're realizing, like, oh, there's rain like right on the camera.
And it's raining
Um,
almost this entire movie.
the
Like
whole
the
movie,
streets are soaking wet, super shiny, reflective, like very Blade Runner esque. A lot of this movie, like the neon
yeah,
signage. I'm getting like a lot of Blade Runner, a lot of Seven, obviously Zodiac. Not so much Zodiac, I guess, in like the visual style of this movie as much, but maybe a little bit. It's mostly Seven and Blade Runner for me. Um,
yeah,
but man, I just like every single frame, like you said, and what I really like too is like the focal lengths that he uses. A lot of this movie is out of focus. Like a lot of the
right.
backgrounds are almost always out of focus.
Again,
Really,
detuned, yeah,
and there's even like one shot when the DA, when the Riddler is kidnapping the DA in his
yeah,
car, the entire shot is out of focus. Like we're kind of focused on the steering wheel, which is in the like extreme foreground of the shot, but we're really supposed to be looking at what's going on in the background,
Yeah,
and
it
it's
feels like he
all
just dropped the camera and walked away and
yeah,
put record on it.
and it's all out of focus, which makes it even that much creepier because you can't see exactly what's going on, but you can see enough. Same thing with some of
Right.
the stuff with the Joker, even like that deleted scene that didn't make it into the final cut where Batman actually goes and talks to the Joker.
Yeah.
He's out of focus the entire shot because they're not really wanting to give you a really clear look at that character. I think it's
Right.
more, especially like reintroducing such an iconic character like Joker, you don't want to like give everyone a super good look at him right away. You want to make it a little bit more mysterious. But what about like, I mean, I don't know if I can pick even like 10 shots from this movie that look awesome because the list is literally the entire movie. But the scene where he's infiltrating Carmine Falcone's um, house or apartment or whatever, his like hideout, and he's just taking all these machine gun bullets off of him, and that's what's lighting the frame. And he's like moving through the scene, and it's like the bullets are pinging off of him, pinging and just lighting up different parts of the frame. And you're kind of seeing like almost like a strobe effect when he's fighting these guys because you're only seeing like certain frames when he's actually lit. It's I
No.
don't even know how you come up with that. Like, how do you sit down and draw
Well,
up a shot like that?
so him and Matt Reeves talked about, and Matt Reeves talks about it a lot on the director's commentary, and I didn't get the name of what he was actually using, but he talked about he had like a VR app that his set designer made him, where he could like put things into the set and look at it through VR, be like,
Mm.
okay, I need a cabinet there, and make his sets before he actually started designing the sets. And he likes to visually storyboard. He took it a step further, and I know this is somewhat to Reeves' credit, and then with Greig Fraser acting that out, he could change the focal length and lens of the camera while he was doing that as well. So he was pre-planning a lot of the shots for this film and sharing them with Fraser, and Fraser was acting them out. And that's why he had so much time to set up the lens and the cameras, because they had a lot of this movie really planned out when they actually shot it. And so they had a ton of time to play with stuff like that, to think, how could we do this shot? And I think that's just, again, like using technology like the volume, like this VR headset to your advantage in ways where we talk about like Marvel movies are sometimes storyboarded out and pre-planned a lot, but it doesn't feel like it because you get the final shots and they're not, they don't look like they've been thought up for 5 years or so. This movie felt like it took, 4 or 5 years to really plan out every single frame, and the attention to detail is just on another level. And you feel that. And it was made, reports have gone up with some of the like later marketing budget to like up to 185 million. But the really early reports about just filming this movie was that it was done on a budget of 100 million. That is fucking crazy. Like there's no way. And again, setting the bar, making every, you see like on Twitter they put the big three, and it's Pattinson's Batman and Tom Holland Spider-Man and Corrin Sweat Superman, and it's not even close. Like it's a whole
Are you
different
kidding me?
level of movie as far as how like just the screenshots look.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, this
I
is
don't
one of the best modern superhero. This is one of the best superhero movies ever made, and it
yeah,
blows 99.9% of everything else we've seen out of the water as far as visual storytelling, tone, character. As just a movie as a whole, the Batman is truly exceptional in a world of a lot of comic book slop that we get nowadays. Stuff that feels like no time at all was put into the visual element. It's really just more about like it's almost like shooting an episode of TV, or it's more of just about let's just film the script and kind of get on with it because people are going to go see this no matter what. The
yeah.
Batman, like every single inch of this movie feels like it was obsessed over for an ungodly amount of time, and that's why it
Yeah.
is as great as it is.
One thing that I really like is you can watch the director's commentary, and Matt Reeves talks about like, oh yeah, we use like two lights to light this scene. And it's like one little overhead light on this side, and maybe there's a blue light in the distance on this side to show the moon. He was talking a lot about the first like murder scene in the mayor's apartment and how they used two lights through that entire scene. And I think this is where like it was getting into Fraser usually wants to use like 20 or less LED lights on a film, and he just has them pre-programmed to the settings. And that's why the movie looks so consistent too, because he has the understanding of lighting so well that he can just pre-program 20 LED lights to exactly how he wants to light a scene. Uh, that's again insane attention to detail and just doing the basics so well. All the little stuff that he does with the visual language, he brings out a lot of Pattinson's performance through framing him correctly and letting his eyes do a lot of the talking. I don't think Pattinson's performance is nearly as good without Greg Fraser, filming him through it. One thing, it was a quote, I believe it was Pattinson at the time, talked about Fraser stating on set that the hardest things to light and shoot properly are Darth Vader's helmet and Batman's cowl.
Uh,
Who gets to say that? That is so fucking cool that because he was telling Pattinson, like, no, please tuck your chin here or whatever. And Pattinson was like, I don't feel like I look natural. And he's like, dude, trust me, you do.
yeah.
And then he said to Pattinson, the hardest things to light are Darth Vader's helmet and Batman's cowl. That is insane. That is already such a cool, like, little resume card. Like, that should be a t-shirt that Fraser wears all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
What?
you know how Ian McKellen says the I'm Gandalf and
Uh
Magneto
huh.
and
Uh huh.
bitch or whatever. That should be Greg Fraser's t-shirt. Like, I have shot Dune. I can light Batman's cowl and
hmm
Darth Vader's helmet.
I mean, I saw an interview with Jeffrey Wright, who plays Commissioner Gordon in this movie,
Yeah.
saying of his process of watching Greg Fraser work and just not really understanding quite what was going on at first, and then
Right.
realizing once he was like seeing what they were getting, seeing the results, thinking, "Wow, this guy is a painter. Like he is painting with
Right.
light." That's something that's a quote from Jeffrey Wright.
Jeffrey Wright.
But yeah,
Yeah.
just thinking like this guy is really like painting with light and with the camera and just like being a true artist. I mean, there really is so much artistry that goes into this, and I think it's maybe on display better in the Batman than any of his other work, which almost feels crazy to say considering the crazy amount of stuff that he's done and how all his shit looks
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. But yeah, I think the Batman might be the best example. I mean, shooting that um upside down shot of Batman walking towards the Penguin after he's flipped his car over, that's
Yeah.
you're just on another level to even come up with that kind of stuff. And again, he's so a lot of his stuff is so great because, like I said, he endears himself and he works with these great filmmakers who know how to get the most out of him and vice versa, and who are just such great collaborators. Matt Reeves, I mean, he needs to work with Matt Reeves again. Is he
Yes.
gonna? Do we know? Is he working on the Batman 2 or someone else shooting that? Do we
No.
know? He's not doing
No,
that.
he's not, because he's doing all this Beatles. Like,
I know. We'll get to
and
that. We'll
again,
get to that.
I don't know. Like, it's just crazy to me because I try to remove my bias from it. Because of course, like, yeah, the Batman's my favorite work that he's done. But I try to think like, okay, Dune, has all the scale, and Rogue One's so much fun. But yeah, you're right. Like, he paints with the shadows, he paints with light. Like, he's making all the simple scenes so incredible. Um, it's just a shame again that he's not going to be on part two. Matt Reeves talked about that upside down shot and said that was another one that they framed in the VR glasses. They said, "What if we put the camera upside down?" Like, that was
Because
just an
he's like a
idea that they
bat on the
had.
ceiling.
Like, and so they flipped it around, and then everybody's like, "Oh, it's like that famous painting of the bat out of hell," and it's like, no, I just discovered that.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I just made
we were
that
just
up.
VRing that, and that's such baller shit. Um, Thor: Love and Thunder came out the same year and used the volume quite a lot,
And noticeably
and
so.
noticeably so. And then they use the volume on this on all the like sunset and sunrise scenes
Yeah,
on
there's
the
that one
rooftop.
main scene when
Oh my
Batman and Catwoman are
gosh,
standing
man.
like on that abandoned building and the pink kind of
Incredible.
yeah, I don't is it sunrise or sunset? I guess we don't really
I think
know,
it's
but
sunrise.
it's the
Yeah, but
pink
it's just
sky.
it's amazing.
hmm
Um, just and again, like using when in a year that it got just shit on because of Thor: Love and Thunder and all the shitty shots, it's like, oh well, that's why you use the
It just shows
volume.
you the
And
difference of a true
yeah,
master working with it with versus someone who
right,
doesn't really give a shit.
right. And again, the behind the scenes on this film, they still like it's weird because they're playing a lot of things close to the chest. But the behind the scenes on this film could teach you how to make a movie. Favorite shots. I want to just dig into them really quickly. We talked about the Riddler's frame or Riddler's eyes coming into frame in the prologue. The opening narration, that whole thing is all like B-roll type shots, but
hmm
it's the best B-roll you've ever seen in your life. The initial pan down of Gotham is incredible. My favorite shot in the whole movie, and it's kind of a weird one, the second narration after the police announce Mayor Mitchell's murder. The shot is like it's off to the left of the Batmobile, and he's driving through in the morning as Drifter Bruce Wayne, and everything's out of focus in the background, and all the lights are blending together, so it looks like he's going faster than he is. But the back tire of the not the Batmobile, sorry,
The
the Bat
bike,
Cycle,
his bike, yeah.
his bike is in focus, and it's just I don't know why it's just such a good shot. Um, There's a shot of the Wayne Terminus in Batcave when he gets in there, where the Drifter Bruce takes off his helmet, and the camera kind of pans crooked up with him, like he's like a creature taking off his helmet. The shot of his eye taking the lens out
Hmm.
is just amazing. When Selena is first going into the club, and the train is going in the background, and Batman and Selena are talking about what they're going to do, and that's like a it's funny because that's one that just gets swept under the rug and it's like a throwaway shot, and it's one of the best shots you'll ever see. Um, there was when he's stalking Selena for the first time through, the binoculars
Yeah.
and through the glass with the rain on it, and it's lit by just the TV in her little apartment.
Hmm.
Incredible. Um, Catwoman descending into Mayor Mitchell's office looks like something out of the Long Halloween. Use of shadows. The Nighthawks 1942 painting with the Riddler in the diner. Oh,
Sure.
just crazy,
Yep.
crazy outside shot.
Yep.
And then the camera again being mounted on the back of the Batmobile when it turns as Penguin's car flips. Insanity. And Batman falling from the rafters into the flooded stadium
Yeah.
with the red and blue lights flashing, the police lights flashing, and it's like a rebirth of his character. And so many others.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's
Um,
really it's hard to
Pick a
narrow stuff
scene.
down. Yeah, pick anything. Yeah, the bottom line for me with the Batman is because every single thing has been obsessed over and there's been so much attention to detail put into this movie, it's going to be really hard to top this with the Batman 2 or really with any, not
Right.
just superhero movie, but like any movie. Like it's
Yeah.
absolutely insane that this didn't get a cinematography nomination at the Oscars.
Deakins said that. Deakins said that, the best film isn't even nominated.
Yeah, well, it just goes to show you how stuck up the Academy members all are that they didn't even nominate this. We
Right.
need to be, we need to get into the Academy somehow. We need more people like us and just more regular people, people with a brain, to do this kind of shit. Because the fact that this doesn't get in there, it almost discredits the entire category
Yeah.
as a whole. It doesn't even make sense to me. I don't know why they hate superhero movies just
They
on
just
like a
do.
just on a basis, because we're big superhero movie fans, but we're the first people to admit when comic book movies look like shit or
Right.
are shit. I mean,
We
we
want
don't
them to be held to this standard. This
exactly.
is what care our characters should be given. This looks like a comic book.
And
Like
it's a
this is
little it's just a
exactly
little
how you push the
disappointing
medium.
when you go this hard and you put this much detail into something and it doesn't get nominated or doesn't get attention because it's
Just
a
because of genre.
superhero movie, because it's a genre film. It's kind of disheartening and it's pretty sad, honestly. But we still have it. I think
Yeah.
everyone knows how great this is, and I don't think it's I don't. It's more of a stain on the Academy than anybody else. Just shows you how kind of stupid they can be.
I do also think that if this was just a detective movie with substitute some characters in there, like original
Right,
characters,
right.
that people in general would hold this movie in high regards. And I know it's held in really high regards, but I think it would be just a I think people are scared to say it's like an all-timer in the way it's shot. I'm
It is
not.
though. No, it
This is an
definitely is.
all-timer. Like this is a decade, century defining movie. This should be
Hmm.
taught in every film class. And I don't care. Like this is not just my fandom. It's insane. And then from the angle of being a fan, that I can just watch a Batman movie and not have anything to nitpick in it as a huge fan is amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, we didn't even mention that he actually won the Oscar for cinematography for Dune Part One, nominated again
Right.
for Lion and for Dune Part Two, but to not even get a nom for the Batman is truly criminal, and I think it does
Yeah.
show the kind of bias that some people have towards
That's
comic
stupid.
book films. Let's talk about the creator just for a little bit. I don't know if you have a ton to
I
say
still haven't seen this
about the
one.
creator. You should watch it. I mean, it's right in there with like
I
his
know.
kind of big sci-fi epic spectacle movies. Decent overall movie. The script maybe could have used another pass or two, or some stuff could have been cut out of it. But just from like visual language, this I think has a lot in common with Rogue One. It feels very similar with a lot of like the color palettes and settings and stuff that we're playing with in Rogue One. A lot of that shows up in the creator too. I don't think I really realized that he was shooting this when I saw this movie. I was like looking forward to it. I love sci-fi movies. It looked like it's right up my alley. I thought it was pretty decent. Like had a really good time watching it. Didn't absolutely love it, but you can't say anything against the cinematography and against the lighting, the settings. I mean, all of this
You can tell there's scale in it
is
too, just outside
superb.
looking
Yeah,
in.
it's also shot on a really big scale. Like I said, feels very similar to Rogue One. You should check this one out, Dante, because I think you could get a lot out of it.
Yeah, I think I would too. I think John David Washington has a face that's made for cinematography too, even
Sure.
in like little close-ups. Like he looks great in movies. He just has I don't know, it's a funny thing to say, but he just does. And then yeah, scale of it looks incredible. He talked about like filming some of this in the mountains and stuff and doing things at higher elevation, playing with the camera again. You know, thinking about stuff like that I think is pretty fun that he'd even think like I'm at a higher elevation, maybe I should change my lens. Okay, freak, do it. So I love him.
I just want to go like down the line from so Rogue One and Lion in 2016. Then we get Mary Magdalene 2018, Vice, and also in 2018. But then he really just goes on a crazy heater.
Yeah,
2021, Dune, 2022, The Batman, 2023, The Creator, 2024, Dune Part 2. And that leads us right into 2026 with Project Hail Mary, a movie that's
right.
going gangbusters at the box office right now. Everybody's loving it. And I think a lot of the reason people are loving it is because it looks absolutely amazing. Greig Fraser just
Yeah.
on another mode. Like, well, I didn't think he had any more tricks in his bag, but I think he maybe has the
It's so
deepest bag of
different.
all time.
Yeah. So different here and like really plucky cinematography and doing some like comedic elements that
Yeah,
I think he maybe pulled from Vice to do this
sure,
film a bit, you
sure.
know? Um, I think one thing that he does like different than anybody else is like handheld really close shots. And in the Batman, we didn't talk about it, but like when Selina's infiltrating the club and you're seeing everything from her point of view with the different like film kind of like that she's recording frame
Mm-hmm.
on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, in this film with Gosling talking to himself with a handheld camera and how just simply good it looks. Um, you watch The Martian, like I watched it again, and then
Mm-hmm.
you watch this, and you're like, it just looks better. Like just simple scenes like that just are framed in a better way, have better composition to them, whatever. And it's just kind of funny that he has this in his bag because I wouldn't expect a lot of what he does in this film.
Yeah, that's a good point that you made with kind of the tone being a bit similar to Vice in certain instances. Definitely more comedic than probably anything else he's ever done.
Yeah.
Also, his first time working with Phil Lord and Chris Miller, master
Yeah.
filmmakers in their own right. Again, just working with, and obviously, when you're someone at this point in Greg Fraser's career, you could just
Work
pick
with
whoever
whoever the
you
hell you
want to work
want.
with.
Yeah.
It's just everyone wants you to shoot their movie. I
Yeah.
like that he's kind of sticking in genre stuff here because I think that's really where he works the best, where he's like his powers can be put on full display is with stuff with genre picks like the Batman, like Dune, like the Creator, and all the space stuff he does in Project Hail Mary looks absolutely amazing. This movie's also lens flare city. Everything shot on Earth,
Yeah.
even in space too. You get crazy like vertical lens flare stuff that we haven't really seen before using specific techniques in order to achieve that look. Shooting on the RE Alexa 65, shooting large format,
Yeah.
printing on IMAX film. His movies look absolutely amazing in 70 millimeter on these gigantic 143 IMAX screens. And this movie absolutely blew me away. Every single space scene is in that full 143 aspect
Yeah.
ratio. It's like 80% of the movie is in that ratio, maybe more than I've ever seen in a movie actually shot on IMAX, one battle after another. But that was a different story. That whole movie
Right.
took up the screen, but it was shot in a different format. But I just don't know how he keeps doing this. And like even the stuff he's doing with colors is stuff we have not seen before. That scene that's almost becoming iconic, like in modern times,
Yeah.
is the like the red astrophage or whatever scene where they pull the infrared filter out of the camera and it turns this what they had on set into this crazy red sparkling lights all around Ryan Gosling's character. It's pure like cinema. I don't really know how else to describe it.
Well, I like he a lot of the scenes back on Earth are really gray and dull, and it's on purpose through a lot of the movie. And it's fun because you see Greg Fraser, who's used to doing more with less, using lighting rigs, doing like the little things right. And then you can see him empty the bag in space and do like the astrophage
Yeah.
scene and just go crazy with the camera and lens flare city and have it spinning around a character and do
Hmm.
like maximalist production, which he is not known for. And it's like, oh, he could do this for the next 20 years if he wants to as well. And he won't because that's, again, he's pushing the envelope and he's not going to stop. I don't want to get too off of Project Hail Mary, but I watched an interview with him and I'm forgetting her name and I feel awful. She just won Best Cinematography for Sinners.
Oh, Autumn Dorota
And
Arkapaw.
Yeah, and he's talking to her, and he's like, "Well, I texted you after Sinners," and she's like, "Yeah, I'm so glad you got to see it in the biggest format." And he's like, "Yeah, I had some questions for you." Like, and you can tell in the interview, he's very polite to her,
He's like,
but
"How did you
he's
do
like,
that?"
"How'd you do that, huh?" Like, he's getting all sorts of.
Uh-huh.
He's like, "We're gonna work well together." Like,
Mhm.
he's and again, like taking inspiration and taking notes and going to different directors. I feel like he is on like a world tour of just learning still.
He also
And I
seems
don't
really
know
humble. He
if
doesn't
he's
seem like
reached
he's like,
yeah,
"I'm at the peak and I'm so much better. Nobody can do this shit like I can," which
right.
is kind of true. But like you said, he's like
Yeah,
still wanting to
it's
learn from
true.
all these other people who are also working in his field. It's really special. We don't have a lot of people like this that we can
Right,
really like prop up as like the best of us, the best of this type of person, I guess, the best in this field. It's
right.
awesome to see.
Um, do you think he has taken the crown I think this is why we're doing this video, but do you think he's taken the crown officially from, Roger Deakins?
I modern, yeah. I
I
mean,
think
I would
yeah,
say so. I mean, what's Deakins done recently? What's
right.
the last great thing we've seen from Roger
Was the one
Deakins?
with Mendes he did, right?
Empire of Light.
Empire of Light,
Yeah,
right?
well, that
That
took a
was the
spot
last
from
one
the
that he
Batman
did?
for best cinematography that year. So fuck
Right.
that movie. That movie also kind of sucked in general. Looked
I like
looked
how
good, I
Deakins
guess.
I like how Deakins even said, like, "I shouldn't be nominated, it should be
For
the
well, also
Batman."
like there were other movies that also like Empire Light
Yeah,
was not the worst. Elvis also was fucking nominated that year. So let's start.
right.
If you really want to get into it, we can go down that road. But um,
Yeah.
yeah, let's. I don't know. Roger Deakins, was Empire Light the
I think
last thing he did?
I think so. Um, I think Hoyt van Hoytema's up there.
Oh yeah, Hoyt is
Like,
definitely in there for
really
sure.
like, maybe 2 or 1A, but I do think, just for the scale and differences and everything he's doing, I think it is Fraser.
Yeah, Empire of Light
Um,
2022, the last film that Roger Deakins worked on.
yeah,
We don't have to get into Deakins. Obviously, he's amazing. He's one of the greatest of all time. But yeah, I
right.
would say Hoyt van Hoytema. I really want to see what Autumn Gerald Archipod does next if she works on the next Ryan Coogler movie. What's going to happen there? She was
Right.
awesome. Um, I'm blanking on some names, but whoever shot Challengers, I need to see them again immediately. Like,
Okay.
come on. Um, yeah, but I think
What's,
what else you
oh,
got?
sorry.
No, go
No,
ahead.
I had another question for you. Then we'll get into kind of Fraser's future, I think, is gonna be a fun little outro to this video. If you could watch Fraser work with one director, because he is doing this kinda hopping around. I think Sam Mendes is a good choice, even though I'm not too sure about the Beatles movies. Um, one director, who would it be? I think I've got a good answer.
Well, go ahead. Go ahead. Give me yours first.
Cuarón. I think he should
Mm,
work with Alfonso Cuarón. That would just be amazing. Because a lot of I feel like a lot of Children of Men and active camera stuff could go really well into whatever, Fraser's work is going towards.
okay. Well, I'll give you someone then that I think reminds me is kind of similar in some ways to Alfonso Cuarón, and I'm gonna say Alejandro G. Inarritu.
Sure.
I would love to see. I don't know how what the styles would work because Inarritu is. I
I
don't
think
know
he
if
always works with Luzbecki or
he
whatever.
does,
Yeah.
and I don't know. That's another person we haven't mentioned yet, but he's another
Yeah.
great, absolutely
Great.
great DP.
Not as active, but great.
Yeah, I would maybe because I really like all the Inarritu movies. And Frazier maybe because he's so versatile. He kind of do so many different things with different people. Maybe let's see him team up with Nolan. I mean, I know Hoyte van Hoytema has
Right.
like been absolutely kicking ass with Nolan, so it's hard. Like you don't want to break them up.
Right.
But maybe just see what Frazier can do with a Nolan film because I mean, Frazier's Batman versus Nolan's Batman is like night and day. It's completely
Yeah.
different. The Nolan Batman is everything's in focus. It's super sharp. It's super clean, glossy, and bright. And Frazier's Batman, we've already talked about it, but is like the exact opposite. Both
Just
are
spit in your
amazing.
face, dirty. Yeah.
Um,
I would like
yeah,
to see him if he worked with Fincher, there would be a problem in that Fincher would tell him to stop being a director of photography and would tell him to direct his own movies. Like the
sure.
same thing that he did with Sorkin as a writer,
Uh huh.
where he's like, "Aaron, you're too good of a writer." Like where he the last couple scenes of Social Network, I think Aaron Sorkin actually directed because Fincher's like, "Nope, I'm leaving set. You're directing. You need to learn how to do it." I think he would do that with Greg Fraser too, where he'd be like, "All right, you're the director for the final 4 days of the shoot. Bye."
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I think
as
another.
much as I'd like to see that, he'd
I'm
push
also
him
just.
into being a director.
It's tough to try to pair Frazier with like other filmmakers because I love who these filmmakers are already working with for the most part. But maybe Damien Chazelle. I would really like to see him
Yeah,
work with Damien Chazelle, a guy who
more active camera.
I absolutely love all his movies. maybe the Safdies. I mean, the Safdie brothers. They have Darius Kanji worked with. They've been working with the past couple movies. I'm trying to think like my favorite filmmakers.
I don't
I couldn't really see him with like someone like Robert Eggers because Jaron Blaschke working with Robert Eggers has been doing outstanding work. Like I think on the
right.
level of a Greg Fraser in a completely different register, but on that same level, I think
Yeah,
Jaron Blaschke is someone who really like is underlooked in that field. But I don't know. Greg Fraser maybe should just direct his own movies because I think
I think so.
he's like on that level where he could. He absolutely could if he wanted to. He
I
could
think a
get a
fun
movie
one.
made.
I don't know where his career is going, but Kerry Joji Fukunaga,
Mm,
who did No Time to Die, which No
yeah.
Time to Die looks great. But he also did Beast of No Nation. He did the first season of True Detective. I think he would be a fun one to use with Fraser. I think they have a lot of things in common,
What
but I
about
just don't
Ridley
know
Scott?
when.
What about Ridley Scott still making movies?
Ridley Scott pumps out 2 movies a year.
I
Yeah, he
know.
could
So
use
let's
him.
get Fraser and let's get him to
Right,
team up with Greg Fraser, or maybe he can do the last Tarantino movie. Even what about that?
right. So as you can see, the correct answer is everyone. We should work
Everybody,
with
any great
everyone.
filmmaker.
Um, I think it's kind of interesting that you mentioned Chazelle because Chazelle's cinematographer, Linus Sandgren, who worked on Babylon, worked on La La Land, worked on
Hmm.
First Man, he's going to be doing Dune Part 3.
Yes.
And he also did Wuthering Heights, Saltburn, No Time to Die, which kind of brought up my Kerry Joji little argument there. But yeah,
I think that's
looks
as good of a
great.
replacement as you could have gotten for Greg Fraser. Not that
I,
anybody can
I think
fully
so
replace
too.
him, but all those movies you just mentioned, like some of the best looking movies I've seen in the past 10 years or whatever.
Right.
So that's not a
And
bad
he's going to use
replacement.
colors in a similar way. I think colors are going to be a big emphasis of that. He's going to be a
Sure.
little bit more vibrant, which might actually fit what's going on in Doom Part 2. For the Batman Part 2, it is Eric Messerschmidt, who did Mindhunter on Netflix, which is, I don't know if you've seen all of it, but
Mm-mm.
painting with shadows, again, just an amazingly shot show, and using that low level, like minimalist lighting, yellow lighting, blue lighting, gray lighting outside. And then he did The Killer for Fincher.
Mm.
So I think really in and started as a photographer as well, and has been like traveling in the UK the last month and been posting photos on Twitter of just like gothic cities at night. It's like, okay, you'll be fine, dude.
Yeah.
But I do wonder if Fraser is gonna share some of his secrets with
Yeah, he
like Doom
should.
Part
Well,
3
you would be
and
stupid
back with Matt Reeves.
not to take anything that he's willing to give you.
Right.
And you use the Batman as a template. You have Matt Reeves there
Right.
still, so he's going to help shepherd you along. And
Could he
just
help them do the film out processes
oh,
though? Like,
maybe.
could he help them do that again? Could he
Yeah.
help give Eric Messerschmidt the detune lenses?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, I think both those movies are aiming to have a similar visual language. It's funny because the whole debate at the start of this was like, if Greg Fraser has to do the Batman Part 2 or Doom Part 3, which one would you rather see him do? And fans were like, oh, we're not going to get both. We're going to get one. And he's doing neither.
And then he's
So
let's
this
just go into it.
this
That's a
leads
good
us to his next
transition.
choice.
Go ahead.
Um, Sam Mendes is a great director. Um,
But why
I
is he
just we're
stealing Greg
so
Fraser for
we're,
four fucking Beatles biopics that are
yeah,
all going to come out a week apart? This whole
this whole
thing needs to
experiment
fucking
is just
stop right
yeah.
now. I
I
don't understand
appreciate,
this.
and we've just talked about like I appreciate pushing the envelope and doing something that's unheard of, but I am kind of it just feels like a why choice. And at first I thought Fraser was British, maybe.
He
But he's
is.
He's
Oh,
Australian.
he's Australian. That's right.
He's from Melbourne. So now it makes no sense to me because I thought
I
maybe,
guess he just
okay,
really likes the
he's
Beatles, I
British
guess.
and he must love the Beatles or something. You know, like Danny Boyle loves the Beatles. Maybe he could have been the
Well,
DP for
yeah.
yesterday.
No.
But it's just such a weird choice. I don't know why you wouldn't choose. I guess it's something new for him, but it you go from such big scale and like epics, and I guess the Beatles it could be like a career defining thing for him, but it does just feel like a waste of his talents. Um, it does feel like
Yeah.
Mendes could get like, and again, this is not an insult to him, but somebody like Jeff Cronenweth, who's done like Social Network and stuff,
Hmm.
get someone in that range who wants to do more interiors, can do a great job with it. But why are we wasting Fraser's talents on the Beatles movies? And I'm sure they'll look amazing, but it just feels
Yeah.
like a waste of his
I
talents.
almost feel bad saying that because Fraser obviously wanted to do this. Like he
Yeah, it's a
chose to
big
do this.
commitment.
So
Yeah.
he committed to these four films, which is taking him out for basically the next. I mean, these movies are already they're coming out in
Right.
2028.
2028. Yeah.
So they're currently shooting or they're going to be shooting soon. I don't know exactly what the production schedule is like off the top of my head. but it's taking him out for essentially 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's just a huge shame because there's a lot of like other stuff that I think a lot of us as fans would rather see him work on, like Dune Part 3, like the Batman Part 2, or even some other stuff, some other genre stuff, something else that maybe we think is a better use of his talents. But at the end of the day, he chose to do this. So I think it's a
Right.
little condescending to like shit on him for doing it because he's the
Right.
guy, he fucking knows what he's doing, right? Like we're just two idiots on a podcast talking about it. But it does just like
But what would
on a
you rather
personal
see
level,
done
on a
by
personal
him?
level, I would
Yeah.
obviously rather him do either of the movies I just mentioned or something else. We'll have to wait and see how these movies come out, like what ends up happening. But it's just so strange. And the whole release schedule with these movies, it's one movie for each Beatle released a week apart. Is that even going to happen? Because the
Yeah.
last time that they tried to do something like that was, I can think of was Horizon American Saga Part 1 and 2, the Kevin Costner
Okay.
thing. And we still have not even seen the second part, even though it's been filmed.
Nice.
It premiered at San Diego Film Festival like 2 years ago or whatever, a year ago. Has not been released. I know that's like probably not a very good comparison at all. These Beatles movies will be released. They're not going to sit in a vault.
Right. Right.
But I don't know. I just have
I'm
very mixed
sure they're
feelings.
look great. I do wonder, like, there will probably be a lot to take in. He'll push it to the max. Like, it'll look obviously as good as it can look. I wonder if he does different techniques for each film.
Uh,
That might be
to
something that
go with
entices
each
him.
different Beatle,
Like,
I guess.
yeah, I do just wonder what, besides just if he's just a massive Beatles fan or whatever, but what enticed him? Because I think he is about pushing the envelope and doing something new. And
I
I
think he
do
just
wonder
must
what
really love the
is the pushing
Beatles. I
point.
really don't. I
Yeah.
mean, he hasn't worked with Sam Mendes before, so maybe Sam had a really good pitch and really kind
Sam
of got
always
him
has
hyped.
good DPs though. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, Sam Mendes, good filmmaker, really good filmmaker. He's made
Right.
a lot of great stuff that we really enjoy. But I mean, also like, have we reached peak Beatles? I don't want this to become like a Beatles conversation, but have we reached peak Beatles where like, I mean, I guess peak Beatles was when they were actually the Beatles,
We're
but
peaking in the
you know what I mean?
60s.
Like
Yeah.
the post apex of the Beatles where we have this is like got to be the end of it, you know? And I like the Beatles. I'm a
Right.
big fan of their music, but can we just let go of some things? Like something we like, there's been a billion documentaries and we've had all this stuff about them.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of pissing me off because it's taking Greg Fraser and now it's like I'm
Yeah.
mad at the Beatles. But
Fuck
yeah,
those guys.
I think after this, like we just need to be done. Like no one's allowed to make any more Beatles movies after this unless Danny Boyle makes Yesterday 2, which seems like something he might actually do.
Yeah.
Not actually, but
I do
um
wonder what because this is more of a just Beatles discussion, but
sure, let's just go.
the Academy fucking loves like musical biopics.
I know. That's the
And
music
so
biopic thing
what
also needs to
happens when
fucking
there's
die.
4 of them?
Do you
Are
nominate
they all gonna be
four of
nominated
the
for Best
10
Picture,
four of
or
the
do you
10
nominate
spots?
all 4 of them for, like, Best Cinematography?
I think
Because
they'll all cancel each
I'm
other
sure
out.
they
I
will
think none
be.
of them will get any noms because you can't do.
Right.
You're gonna do like
How are you gonna say one's better?
right is Paul Mescal gonna get the nom for the Paul movie, or
Yeah.
is Harris Dickinson gonna get the John? I mean, John and Paul obviously like it's gonna be one of those two
Right.
most likely. Um, but like,
And
how are
what's
they
the
gonna pick?
varying how are these movies gonna fare out as far as, like, quality? I don't is there gonna be, like is the Jaw movie gonna be sick and then Ringo s what if, like, Ringo is the best movie? Right? Like, there's just some weird,
We should
elements
probably do
to
a
it.
whole nother pod when we
We
get
should.
closer. Like
We
when we
should.
we get trailers for these and whatever. When stuff actually starts to come out, this could be a whole like hour and a half podcast by itself about the Beatles biopic. So maybe we should save it.
Steve McQueen did I just thought of it. Steve McQueen did something like this where he dropped a bunch of things, but I think he dropped them on streaming. But they were all like hour and a half movies, the small acts movies, and it was during the pandemic.
Not sure. I didn't think this was not on my
Um,
radar.
I think it was 3 or 4 movies. But yeah, again, it's just such a weird, like different choice. And again, just feels like they're taking our guy and like reducing him. Like you're using an atomic bomb or a hydrogen bomb or whatever for a coughing baby. Like you're using it for something that it shouldn't be used for.
I know.
You're bringing a gun to a knife fight. And
You're
it's like
bringing like
cool
a
that
fucking
it's
rocket launcher
a
to a
fucking
fucking fork
bazooka.
fight or something. Like it doesn't
And
even make any sense.
it's like it's cool that you have that you're prepared, but again, it just doesn't feel like anything that I'm too excited for.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to wait and see. But it is really, I'm just glad we got Project Hail Mary, and that's like been the biggest like
Yeah,
example I think has maybe reached the most people, like the most
right.
hard to say
Well, it's
actually,
it's
because like
making us do this podcast,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, as far as all his
Um,
movies, he's made like some gigantic movies. Maybe Rogue One might be his most widely seen film. It's kind of hard to say because he's made so many really like
yeah,
massive like blockbusters at this point. But I just hope let's just get the Beatles stuff out of the way, and let's just let our guy go on another like crazy tear. And maybe these movies are all going to be really good, and we're like going to look back on this conversation in 2 years and think we were being like
we're
really
stupid.
stupid.
Yeah.
We're just going to have to wait and see.
um, Out of the Batman Part 2 and Doom Part 3, I guess this is kind of an unfair question because I don't think either of them will be some dip in quality per se. Which one do you think is going to hurt more without him?
Without him,
Yeah. And I don't know if it because Denis
I
is
don't
such a
know.
great filmmaker and he has a good DP for it. Like they will be fine.
I think
Um,
Batman Part 2,
Batman
because it
Part 2
had
will still be
such a
fine.
unique look and it was so
Yeah.
dirtied and it was
It
so
doesn't look
grimy,
like
and
anything else.
it's going to be really hard to replicate that, but
Yeah.
maybe it'll be good. I mean, of course it'll be good. Of course it'll look great. I'm not
Right.
questioning that at all, but it is just kind of sad that
Right.
we're not getting our guy back here.
Yeah. Now we're ending this video on a sour note.
Yes.
I
Well,
think
that's how
that's
we
where
were
we should
always
where we
that's how
should
we were
leave
going
it
to end the
off,
pod
right?
because we had to
Yeah.
get to the Beatles. So I think the last thing I'll say is it has been an absolute treasure to discover Greg Fraser's
Just walk
work
yeah,
over the past 5 or 6 years. Really, Dune Part One was really what put me on to Greg Fraser as a working
sure.
cinematographer, making me realize that he shot Rogue One, and then obviously with the Batman and the Creator and everything he's done since then, has just really made me love his work and really want to study him and just kind of follow him through his career and the different directors he chooses to work with, the different films he works on. It's really great to get guys like this that we can like follow and be fans of, and like people that we can kind of take ownership, because he's very contemporary. Deakins has been doing it for like since we were way
Right.
before
Has
we
a
were even
huge
born,
catalog. Yeah.
and so it's really fun to have like a new guy like this who is doing it in the modern era and kind of
Yeah.
carrying that torch that someone like a Roger Deakins has like been carrying for so long.
Right. And it's cool that again he's pushing the envelope so much that you want to think like nothing can beat the Batman or Doom Part 2, but he probably will at some point. And that's what are we gonna see? I don't think I'm gonna be comprehending what I'm seeing on screen,
He
but
might not even have peaked yet. That's like
yeah,
a
rare
great
breed.
point. Maybe he hasn't even peaked. And maybe he's just going to continue to keep peaking and peaking and peaking, because like if you get so high, it's okay to plateau if you've reached the ultimate peak. You can't necessarily go any higher, but you
Right.
can at least just stay on that same ride that same sort of plane. Yeah, it's just really going to depend on who he chooses to work with next, or who
Right.
gives him the best pitch, I guess. Who what he's going to do.
Yeah. We'll see in 2028 with the Beatles. Um what peak he reaches then.
Mhm.
Um I think it's a special cinematographer that we can talk about him for like an hour and a half and just without ranking, without any subject matter, just ramble about basically us just glazing Greg Fraser for an hour and a half. And if you made it to this point, go watch one of these films if you haven't seen them. If you have seen them, go watch them again because I
Yes.
guarantee knowing some of this information will give you new details to watch or new lens to experience the film through.